Cole, I want to have you on because LSU's offensive line absolutely struggled against Texas A&M, and there was some quotes and some different things when you do the film breakdown that just make me kind of scratch my head. And Liam Shanahan and Ed Ingram talked about their struggles, and they said A&M broke tendencies with their pressure, giving the Tigers major issues. This is a copycat league, so it could happen again versus Alabama. They were reading our signals, switching their defense to what we were doing. And to me, when I see that quote, it's troublesome because you should be able to adjust to what they're doing. If you had a game plan and they start to do something different on defense, well, you have to adjust on offense. And there were so many times in slide protection, which really is kind of a fix-all. If you're in trouble, you typically will use slide protection, that it just wasn't working. You had four guys doing one thing, another kind of being out there on his own, and here comes a free release guy. So there's issues all over the board right now with this LSU offensive line.
I mean, the reason it's called protection is to protect the quarterback. It's not protection versus a certain amount of things. And I mean, I never went into a game expecting to only see what I had seen on film. Everybody's going to adjust. Everybody's going to add and subtract. And even like you said, some of the quotes coming out about things that you've had problems with, I would always anticipate seeing those again. I mean, I don't know why any team would see if we struggled with twists or if we struggled with some sort of double A-gap blitz that the next team wasn't going to try to put it in. I saw some recognition issues. And
right.
The thing with slide protection where it's dangerous is that I think you get caught up in the fact that there's only one thing that you're supposed to do, and that is just basically, slide one gap to the right, slide one gap to the left. And A&M did some zone blitz stuff where you would slide away from the defender that was on top of you, and there would be nobody in your gap. And then all of a sudden, the guy who was supposed to slide with you already had a defender on top of him. He can't block two. You really do have to still play with your eyes. And that's the thing that frustrates me more than anything in pass pro is I see how many teams are reliant and dependent on slide protection and guys don't use their eyes. You can slide or not slide and stay and use your eyes to where you're supposed to be going and help your guard or your tackle backside, or you can go ahead and slide and keep your eyes backside because you know what's going to hit you if it's right there in your face. So that lack of recognition sometimes is what gets teams in trouble. It got LSU against A&M a few times. I'll never forget when I was talking to Manny Diaz when he was at Mississippi State a long time ago. And he's like, yeah, we have slide busters. I'm like, whoa, what, slide buster? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, we rush two guys in one gap. You're going to slide protect it. You can't slide two guys into one gap. He said, so we're getting one home. And, defensive coordinators in this league are privy to what you do well, and they know exactly what kind of Band-Aids you're trying to throw on problems. So if you can't find a way to put some Neosporin on that wound, you're going to continue to have to use that Band-Aid the entire season.
I'm surprised, Cole, that more defenses don't use the double A-gap mug because even in the NFL, even at that level, it's something we worked on all the time because you can do so many different things when you have both linebackers walked up in the A-gap, and if they're athletic enough to be able to drop when they have to drop and still have their coverage responsibilities, it is something that can give you headaches, and especially in this day and age in college football when you're only protecting with five most of the time. So many teams want to get their back out of the backfield. There's no longer really six-man protections. You'll use it some. I think LSU used it 7% of the time last year, but they were a five-man protection team because they wanted to get the back out in his route. And if you have double A-gap mugs, you're talking about having six guys on the line of scrimmage, which Texas A&M did a ton of, and LSU was not able to ever figure that out.
No, and I tell you, one thing that I saw, actually I had the Egg Bowl this past weekend, Mississippi State did it, where they'll line up a zero nose and they'll put the Mike Backer right on his butt.
Yeah.
And they're shooting A-gaps. But it's just it's a headache because you got a guy, that D tackle is coming your way or that linebacker's coming your way. And so if it's the D tackle, you probably know you need to be a little more stout. You probably know you need to shorten your track a little bit. If it's the linebacker, you might need to cover a little more ground because he's going to be quicker, faster, and you probably need to be ready for if you do go ahead and jump him out all the way across that gap, he can play you back inside because he's got that quickness and he can change direction a lot easier. So it's I'm with you. It's the shortest line to the quarterback. So I don't know why more people don't attack it, because I think you can disrupt more without actually getting to or hitting the quarterback from that spot than you can anywhere else.
All right, so if you're LSU and you're trying to figure out a way to block Alabama, and obviously we know the kind of horses they have up front, what do you think LSU can do? Because it just seems like there's a disconnect, and you've got a freshman quarterback back there, and not a lot of times will I make my quarterback decision based on, who's more athletic, but right now it seems like maybe Max Johnson's the better option, just because you almost expect free guys to be coming off the edge or up the middle, and he can maybe get away from them a little bit better. That's unfortunately kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I don't think that he has better ability to just run away from an individual, but I was really impressed with how he managed the pocket. I'm watching late in that game, and you see him sort of scooting to the left, scooting to the right, hopping up a little bit, avoiding pressure, still keeping his eyes downfield, completing a ball here and there, and still get pretty good zip on the ball, even when he's under duress and has to get it out quick. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's got a little something now. So I'm with you. I think right now Max Johnson might be the best option, because he seems to have a little bit better pocket presence as to how to keep plays alive when he finally needs to leave and bail on a play. And still being able to deliver accurate passes. I think he might do a little better job of reading the intermediate stuff and being okay with checkdowns right now, not necessarily looking for big plays as often. So I was impressed with what I saw from him against Texas A&M.
All right, before we let you go, I do want to ask you a question about Texas A&M, obviously the other team in this game, because everything they did right on defense went wrong for them on offense. Kellen Mond was he was bad. Let's call it like it is, 11-34. He did not look like the guy that he had looked like most of the year. They were the best third down team in the country coming in. They were 2 of 16 on third down. It wasn't a performance that impressed anyone looking at the college football playoff rankings, although they still kind of sit where they're at right now. Is this an outliner because they were rusty, 21 days off, the weather played a factor, or is this a real troublesome game for Texas A&M moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think I would put it all on the break, because look at how Florida came off their break. Look at Alabama; they put 60 on Kentucky, or beat them by 60 coming off of there.
Even LSU beat Arkansas off their 21-day break.
Yeah, so most of these teams are actually looking pretty good coming off extended time off. I just think it was a little bit of a rusty performance by the quarterback. Offensive line just kind of didn't get things going the way that they had them going earlier in the season. Maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call for them down the stretch. They get a pretty good Auburn team that. I think the advantage that A&M has this week is probably up front on both sides of the ball. Auburn front on defense has not been great. Colby Wooten's been nice down the stretch, but across the board they haven't been dominant by any stretch of the imagination. And the Auburn offensive line is kind of a patchwork group right now. Bardarius Ham's banged up. Alec Jackson's going to be out. You don't know the status of Austin Troxell just yet. So that D-line's got a chance to do some real damage again against a quarterback who hasn't been super confident staying in the pocket this season. So I think A&M still has a chance to do some special things, but there were probably a couple of the warts were shown by that LSU team as far as what you can do to have some success, or at least limit A&M success.